Hey everybody, hope you're having a wonderful day today, and Happy New Year, Happy 2019. Welcome back to the channel, and I wanted to do something new this year. Not only doing my breakdown videos and original music, but doing more composing tips, a few less reviews, and just focusing more on growing the channel for us all together as a comprehensive resource for composers and musicians. So I'm really excited, and I first wanted to take you through the theory aspect of my newest track, Final Hope. So if you haven't listened to it yet, please watch the previous video on the channel and you'll be able to hear the audio. And yeah, let's dissect it right away. So it's in C major. Let's just listen to the intro and then we'll kind of discuss it. So. Then it goes into the verse there, but let's start writing the intro. So, big bombastic start. It starts in C major, and I went straight to A major, which is the major 6 of C major. Usually C major does not have C sharp in it, which is why we stick with A minor. But in this case, I wanted a little bit of a different color, so I put in C sharp there for the A major. Then I went back to C major, and then I wanted to explore the sharp 4 of C, which is F sharp. And so somehow you get kind of a Lydian sound. But yeah, I mean, here, just have a quick listen. So that's the A major now. Like here, it sounds a little bit different. It has this different color to it, right? So I kind of wanted to play with that. And then back into diatonic land, we went to D minor. So D minor is in C major, so that sounds fine. But now we get E flat minor, right? And so, that again takes us out of C major just for a moment. And because C major doesn't have E flat in it, C major actually doesn't have any black keys, like no sharps or flats whatsoever. So the introduction of any sharps or flats kind of makes it feel different. And yeah, so let's keep going. Let's see. E flat minor, D major. So in the final few chords, we go to F, G, C, which is basically 4, 5, 1. So we basically came back to C major, whereas before we were kind of exploring different chords and stuff. In this case, I wanted to end back in C major to kind of establish the key really strongly. And really quick note about the melody. I wrote that it stays relatively close together in general. So C, C sharp, A, C, B flat, C, C sharp, F sharp, and now it just goes up chromatically. And that's one of the really fun things about writing melodies, is that you can write your melody first. I tend to do that first and then put the progression on the bottom, because I like having my melody and then I like to match it with different chords that might fit on the bottom. And so in this case, each of those melody notes, I just found a chord that kind of matched, and you can see the progression here kind of went up. So if you take a look right here, this is where the ascending progression started. So on the bottom I had D, and the bass note, so I'm talking about the bass note as well. So D to E flat, to E, which is chromatic so far, then to F, which is again chromatic, then I go up a whole step to G, which is the dominant of C major, and then I go back to C major. So basically I'm going 2, flat 3, 3, 4, 5, 1, right? So you got that ascending progression, and yeah, and that it gives you a sense of the lift there, right? And so the melody does this as well. So as they travel together, it kind of takes you overboard, which is nice, I think. And then we start with the melody. So this is kind of like a transition thing, So let's go through the chord progression here. C over E to F, A, D, G, C. 4 chord, minor 4, sequence, C major to C minor, D minor, E flat major, F minor, G major. Now you'll notice that there's I like to do these chromatic movements in addition to parallel major and minors sometimes. So in the second half of the theme here, went to F major to F minor to establish a nice happy subdominant, but then I kind of wanted to show the parallel version of that. So a little bit of wistfulness, and then the answer is kind of the same thing. So back to C major, but then it goes to C minor, so it's a little bit sad. And interestingly, I didn't notice until now, but let's see. So for this F major to F minor, it's on root position. And now for this though, you notice the bass note change from E to E flat. So it's because I'm using an inversion here, and that puts the third of the chord on the bottom. Now the third also determines if a chord is major or minor. And so if you change the chord from major to minor, then that bass note will now go down. If it goes from major to minor, go down a half step, and that's why we go from E to E flat here. In root position, it's not like that, right? Because the root on the bottom stays there, whether or not it's major or minor. So, so we went from F to E, down chromatic, down another half step to E flat, down another half step to D, and now we're going back up. So D to E flat major. And at the same time, the E flat major brings in B flat and E flat. And that's, again, like just a completely different color in the context of C major. So we don't expect it. But then after that, we get F minor, which is the minor 4 of C major. So that's less far away than E flat major, right? And then from F minor, I go to G major. Because remember, before I went from F major to G major. But in this case, if we're going from F minor to G major, it's not as like surprising after the E flat major. We think we might be modulating, but in fact we don't. So we come back to G major, which is the dominant, and it naturally wants to go back to the tonic, and that's what we have here. Okay, and yeah. So let's see. The melody, I wrote down a few things. So I wrote down very Mario melody. It's very Mario inspired, this track. There's the octave leap, and it's on an unstable degree. Now, I ended on A, so that note's an A. In the context of C major, the stable chord tones, or the stable tones of C major, are C, E, and G. I actually ended on A, so it felt a little bit unstable, right? But then afterwards, then we end on the stable degree, which is G there. Transfer to the bassoon, little tone color change, and the range. Now here's a sequence, and again, and one more time. And you hear the flute and the piccolo were layered in there at the very end, just to bring it up another level and kind of introduce those high frequencies back again. And I one thing I like to do is I bring in a melodic instrument, and then halfway through I'll transfer it to a lower instrument that has a different color to it, and then after I like to layer them both together because it makes it kind of feel cohesive, if you know what I mean. And then okay, so let's continue. So so same chord progression as the first part here: A major, D minor, G major. Now F major, G over F, E minor, E major, D minor. One thing that's like very characteristic of a lot of Mario music is that it'll have these very strong cadences. A lot of it is like classically based, so there's these very classical predictable devices, and for this track I was going for more of a familiar feeling, something that was kind of predictable and that wouldn't deviate too far from regular expectations. So in this case, I started on subdominant F, and then I like using you know, different chords on top of bass notes that are not necessarily part of the chord. So in this case, this is essentially a dominant seventh, G dominant seventh over F. So basically it's in its third inversion. And then I went to the minor 3 to major 6. Again, C sharp is not in C major, so this has a different color. And then we go 2, 5, 1. Okay? Now you notice in the melody, there was the brass introduced, right? For more strength and more power. And now, 2-bar sequence. Just at the descending fifth, and then a little lower. C sharp, and then flute and piccolo. Now I could have done I could have went F, E, D, C, but in this case I wanted to go F, E, C, C, so I wanted to establish that C, the note C, just a little bit more, make it super strong. Now the bridge is usually one of my favorite parts just because you can experiment and play a lot with, you know, your chord progressions and what you want to do, and it really gives you a good opportunity to modulate as well, especially in this kind of theme structure, like track structure. You know, intro or, you know, intro and then section A, which is verse, section B, where you can play around with it, and then section C is like another big section, and then you turn around and loop it again, and this type of style. And so for the bridge, F major, and then resolve to C major. So plagal cadence to D minor, G major, C major, another 2, 5, 1 here. Now we go to A major. Okay, so going from A major, going to A major is again unexpected, but it's not too unexpected because we've done that before. We've went to A major already before, and we know that A major doesn't belong in C major, but this time we're gonna stay in this different key for good. And it sounds like this. And let me tell you why this works as well, because the melody I was going to do do. By the way, there's a major 7th there, C to B, do 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 do, and then the second half answers the question, do 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 do. Now that note right there is an E. So right here, that there is an E. Do 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 do. So even though I'm on the 1 chord, I wanted to go on a stable degree of the 3rd note of the chord, which is E. Now this leads us right into the A major because the 5th of the A major chord is E as well. So there's no surprise there really. The melody is on the same note, but the chord itself changes. So, you know, it doesn't sound too drastic of a difference. So we go to A major, G sharp minor, 2, 5, 1, F sharp major. And now A major to B major, which is the dominant of E major. E major sharp to A, 5 to 1, F sharp minor is 2, 5, 1, and E major. E major again. So this is all the same, right? Now we're gonna ascend. F sharp to G sharp, to A sharp, to B, and now we hit C major. And of course we expected the resolution to E major because it's, you know, 2, 5, 1. And guess what? The melody resolves properly. E, D sharp, E. But instead of doing the E major chord, I went to C major, and remember the 3rd of C is E. So it kind of makes sense that way, right? So the melody resolves properly, but the chord itself basically was a deceptive cadence. It went to the 6, minor 6 of E major. And so, yeah, that's what I wrote here. So the melody ends on E, which is the median of C. Sorry, not median, there we go. And so, yeah, and then in the turnaround, we have this little progression here. So C major, and by the way, this basically established that we're back in C major because, like we said, it starts in C major. So, little Lydian feeling, D over C, back to C major. Now to E flat. Again, Lydian, back to E flat, and now 4, 5, 1. And so you had that warm feeling of the Lydian, right? So I had some warm brass pads playing on there just to give that Hollywood feeling. I mean, especially like John Williams and like, you know, big composers who do these epic scores, the Lydian thing is used a lot, so it just makes sense for me here. I just wanted to put in that feeling a little bit. And then it loops, and at the very end, E major, and now we end on E major. Big crescendo. And I just wanted to talk about the the A minor to B major really quickly. So in E major, usually the 4 and the 5 are major, A major and B major. But in this case, I wanted to do minor 4 and minor 5 just to give it that poignant and wistful feeling. I don't know. There's something about throwing in minors when they're supposed to be majors that kind of just changes our expectations a little bit. It makes us feel a little different. And so I like playing with those chords, and I just think it makes it less predictable in a way. So yeah, it adds a bit of interest. But anyway, that's the dissection of the Final Hope track in terms of the theory. In the next video, we're going to talk about the samples and the production behind it. But this first video was kind of talking about the theory and the science behind it. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And until next time, until the next video, have a great day, guys.